Much of that money stays in the towns where the movies are filmed. But towns like Dubuque gain much more than just economic benefits from having the movies come to town. They have the pride of seeing their towns and residents up on the silver screen. Plus, they get to mingle with the stars, get their autographs, and see that these Hollywood folks aren't much different than they are.
I am nothing. I am worthless slime. I am lower than a snail on a hot day. That's me down there. However, with this, in an apple, but with this director, I can do it all. I can make hand gestures. I can, I can cut.
No release date is set yet for the movie Shoeless Joe, but it's likely we could see it in the theaters by next spring. And it may not be long before another movie begins filming in Iowa. The Iowa Film Office is working on 42 other projects right now, which include several major motion pictures.
Quiet, please, folks. Here we go. Rehearsal is up.
I'm Dana Carden reporting for Time Capsule.
It is now 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. Well, Hollywood has discovered baseball movies, and baseball movies have discovered Kevin Costner. Bull Durham, of course, and now he's making a new one called Shoeless Joe. And Joel Siegel caught up with him recently on the set in Iowa. Joel?
Charlie, like Ernie Banks used to say, it's a beautiful day. Let's play two. And one thing baseball and movies have in common, and both of them you want hits. But baseball movies haven't gotten to first base until this summer's Bull Durham. Two reasons. One, it's not about baseball. It's about America's favorite indoor sport. And two, Kevin Costner. Yes, he's sexy, he's a hunk, but he's also one terrific actor.
I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment outlawing AstroTurf and the designated hitter. I believe in the sweet spot, softcore pornography, opening your presents Christmas morning rather than Christmas Eve, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. Good night.
Good night.
The one thing I like is that this summer people are talking about Bull Durham. They're talking about the literacy of it, you know. They're talking about the originality of it, that it's a very original movie, you know. And I think that that is our only job in making movies, is that that's our obligation, is to have an original, something original. I think that's what life is on a day-to-day, you know, hoping that something, I think that's what keeps us going, is the notion that something original will happen in our life.
In Bull Durham, you play a switch hitter. You're a natural righty, so you
I'm an athlete, and I could hit left-handed, so that wasn't as problematic. You know, acting again became problematic. You know.
You had played high school ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you any good?
I was a good player, but I was a small player. I was a much like I came to my decision to be an actor later in life. I was a kid who developed a lot later, so I was a good player, but not a great player in high school, primarily because of size. And as I went into college, as I started to grow, it was pretty apparent I probably could have played on a lot farther. I think probably the kids in high school would be arguing now, sure, but it was very clear that I could have played farther. And maybe entertained other, you know, maybe even the professional level.
Really?
And entertained it. Yeah. Not saying could have done it. Ball players know in their heart if they can do or not, and I have my own feelings. I was able to confirm several things when I made Bull Durham, above and beyond the movie.
In this film, do you get to hit a little bit?
Yeah, but I'm supposed to be kind of a duck, you know. I'm supposed to, you know, he doesn't hit it real well, and, you know, so that's going to be some acting. He helped shape his time. He hung out with the Beatles, and in the end it wasn't enough. You know what he missed? He missed baseball.
And this is Costner on location with co-star Amy Madigan on the set of Shoeless Joe on a small farm 20 miles west of Dubuque. And I watched him take after take, and it never seemed labored, never memorized. It never looked like work. You have been called, and I quote, Hollywood's next great leading man. What does that mean in the 80s?
I don't know what that means. Guess I'll probably get to buy a house at these prices that leading men go for. I've had feelings about my career and always have, and I'm not surprised at what I'm doing. I'm not putting a title on what it is I do. I just keep looking for the next film and for the next experience and for the next thing that's a part of my life. And So the titles that I give, I won't sit and argue with. I'm not going to say I'm the only person or whatever. I can't say that that's wrong. I don't think about that. I'm already past that.
I understand that after work you like to go out, have a couple of beers. Is that getting hard for you to do?
Yeah, it has been. It's been tougher than I had thought it could be. But I'll still go, you know. It's so funny, you know. I used to not have enough money to buy a beer. Now I don't have to buy any beer. It's really funny. You know, when you get on an upswing in your life, there's people there to buy stuff for you. You know, you feel like Cool Hand Luke, you know, when he's down there and he goes, "Where are you now?" You know, when things are going to hell, he says, "Where are you now?" You know, when things are good, you know. People have been good to me. And I think it's because we believe in the same thing. We believe that when you go to the movie, it should still mean something. And it still means something to me. And it always will. And the movies are going to be different than I'm in, and they're going to be different experiences, but something's going to happen when you go, and that's my promise.
And I believe him. You talk to a lot of actors, you get a lot of what they spend their time shoveling in Dubuque, but Costner impressed me as much off the screen as he does on the screen. And for the record, when they were in college, he worked at Disneyland, she worked at Disneyland, and he married Snow White. Charlie.
Are we still looking at $3.5 million per production?
We open with a flashback. It's 1985, and Wendol Jarvis is working part-time for the Iowa Film Office, producing part-time results. There has been an occasional movie made here, like Fist, Take This Job and Shove It, and Country. But work in the film office is frustrating.
When you're working on a one-person, or in our case here, a half-time basis, it's difficult. It's a challenge.
The next year, Jarvis is promoted to full-time film office manager, and the move really pays off. Film production doubles, then doubles again to over $7 million in fiscal 1987-88. Several million were spent in the Worthington and Cedar Rapids areas because Richard Gere and Kevin Anderson were miles from home.
You boys are bigger news around here than the damn weather.
Even though this fiscal year is only 5 months old, almost $7 million worth of filming has already been developed. That figure would be even higher if production of Another World in Cedar Rapids wasn't postponed to another year. Still, this year's credits already include Shoeless Joe and Zadar Cow from Hell and the TV show Coach.
Stand by. Group number 1. Let's go ahead and walk.
Why has Iowa turned into a Midwest mecca for movie makers? Locations, locations, locations.
I insist that they film here. I tell them that Iowa has the visual looks for them, and I'm going to make this the very best possible shooting experience for them possible. And I leave them with no other choice but to film here.
That enthusiasm isn't lost on film producers either.
A little bit more, maybe.
LA is very, as far as people are so cynical about it, and they don't feel, you know, they're very money hungry and everything. And all around the country, elsewhere, and especially Iowa, people are very generous. They're willing to spend the time to help you out. And it's a great place to shoot. It's beautiful.
The people and the cooperation there, to me, was something that was unique.
And now that Iowa has several major films under its money belt, the state is getting some great word of mouth from some very influential mouths.
I think of Iowa very much as America, the best that America has to offer.
In the film, you know, a character says 2 different times, is this heaven? And Kevin's character says, no, it's Iowa. And at the end of the film, he says, you know, maybe this is heaven. I mean, this is sort of a love letter to Iowa, this movie also.
Iowa Film Office, this is Wendell.
When it comes to making Hollywood contacts, it helps to be a good receiver. In 1983, Wendol Jarvis's film office received only 600 inquiries for filming. But last year, that number grew to 3,600.
Can I check on that and get back to you later on?
And when Wendell calls me and he says, Governor, call this producer, call this director, I make those calls because I know it can make a difference and I've seen the results.
Being a film office manager is certainly no desk job, though. Jarvis also travels around the state, scouting for just the right kind of filming locations. During the past couple of years, those locations have been mostly in eastern Iowa, and it's no coincidence. The only city-run film offices in the state are in Cedar Rapids and Dubuque.
It's kind of a gamble. You never know if you'll get anything, you hope. And this summer we got real fortunate and got Shoeless Joe, which was a very nice film, and they spent about $5.5 million in our community in about a 3 or 4 month period.
We passed a law which eliminates the withholding tax to filmmakers when they film in Iowa.
To really attract movie makers and their money, though, Jarvis knows he has to go out of his way. To the Location Expo in Los Angeles last winter, and this fall to the Cinetex trade show in Las Vegas.
You have to go to the filmmakers to tell them that you want their business, and that's what I do. And I go and meet one-on-one with the filmmakers, and I insist that they film in Iowa. I insisted they filmed Shoeless Joe there. I insisted they film Miles from Home, and they filmed those projects and a number of others, and I think that's what it takes.
Some have criticized the Iowa Film Office for spending state money to go to places like Los Angeles and Las Vegas. But Jarvis says it's a gamble that has definitely paid off.
The LA trip, for instance, helped Iowa land the now delayed production of the movie Another World, much to the chagrin of Jarvis's competition.
Well, Wendol, that snake, has gotten a lot of films away from us, but Wendol's very good. And we're very similar to a certain extent, particularly eastern Kansas to most of Iowa. And so if a company calls us or a company calls Wendol, they're not only calling us, but they're calling Nebraska and Illinois and all the Midwestern region plus Canada.
Yes, there is a war of sorts between the states for movie dollars, but it's a civil war.
Our objective is really to encourage producers from California or New York to come to the Midwest, and we'll all get our share sooner or later.
I can do it all. I can make hand gestures. I can I can cut.
No release date is set yet for the movie Shoeless Joe, but it's likely we could see it in the theaters by next spring. And it may not be long before another movie begins filming in...
It is now 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. Well, Hollywood has discovered baseball movies, and baseball movies have discovered Kevin Costner. Bull Durham, of course, and now he's making a new one called Shoeless Joe. And Joel Siegel caught up with him recently on the set in Iowa. Joel?
In Iowa, the Iowa Film Office is working on 42 other projects right now, which include several major motion pictures.
Quiet, please, folks. Here we go. Rehearsal is up.
I'm Dana Carden reporting for Time Capsule. Much of that money stays in the towns where the movies are filmed. But towns like Dubuque gain much more than just economic benefits from having the movies come to town. They have the pride of seeing their towns and residents up on the silver screen. Plus, they get to mingle with the stars, get their autographs, and see that these Hollywood folks aren't much different than they are.
I am nothing. I am worthless slime. I am lower than a snail on a hot day. That's me down there. However, with this, in an apple, but with this director,